I never thought I'd be the guy to write something like this, but here I am, trying to make sense of everything that's happened. My wife Emily and I got engaged just a few months ago. We'd been together for 3 years and everything seemed perfect, at least on the surface. I was planning our wedding, doing all the usual stuff, picking out the suits, coordinating the flowers, imagining our life together. But behind the scenes, something was wrong. I just didn't see it yet. The first real red flag wasn't even something I caught myself. It was her phone. She was always glued to it. She'd sneak off into the bedroom or bathroom with a quick excuse like she was just checking messages. I remember catching her one night, her hand trembling slightly as she hid her phone behind her back. I asked her what she was doing and she just brushed it off, saying it was nothing. Still, that little flicker of nervousness stayed with me. Then there was her attitude lately. She seemed distracted, distant. I'd ask her about her day, and she'd give me vague answers like she was hiding something. I noticed her canceling plans with friends, more often saying she was too busy with work. She had a demanding boss, Jason, who she said was just a colleague, but I always felt there was more to it. She'd blush when she mentioned him and her tone changed. I brushed it aside, telling myself I was paranoid. Maybe I was just overthinking. It all came crashing down 2 weeks ago. I was at work when I decided to check her phone. Just a quick peek. Something told me I needed to see if she'd slipped up. I scrolled through her messages during my lunch break and my stomach dropped. There were dozens of texts from Jason, mostly flirtatious, some downright suggestive. Things like "can't wait to see you tonight," and "you're the only one I think about," sent during her lunch hour. My hands went cold, palms sweating. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My mind spun. How long had this been going on? Was she planning to tell me? Or had she already crossed the line? I looked at the messages, words I knew I'd never seen in her before. Her tone was different, more daring, more reckless. It was like I was reading someone else's life. And the worst part, she had lied about everything. Said she had a strictly professional relationship with Jason, that he was just a boss who was helping her with work stuff. I trusted her. I had no idea she was hiding this. That night I confronted her. I was furious, but I kept my voice steady. "Who is Jason? Why are there hundreds of texts between you two?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from trembling with rage. She froze, eyes wide, then started to shake her head. "It's not what it looks like. It's just I was stressed and he's been helping me." "Helping you?" I cut her off, voice rising. "It looks like you're cheating on me with your boss. How long has this been going on?" She couldn't meet my eyes. "It's not like that. We're just friends. Friends don't send that kind of message." I snapped, feeling the blood pounding in my ears. My stomach twisted with betrayal. I wanted to scream, but held back just long enough to see her finally break down in tears. I don't remember exactly what I said after that, only that King 2. I left her crying in the living room, my mind racing. I looked around, trying to find some way to fix this, to make sense of it, but all I saw was a woman I no longer recognized, lying, hiding, betraying everything we'd built. I knew then I couldn't trust her again, not after this. And I started to think about what comes next, because I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. The next few days were a blur. I couldn't focus on work, couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her tears, her guilty look. I kept replaying those texts, those damn messages. It was like a poison in my mind, and I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't exactly sure what. I kept telling myself I was wrong to jump to conclusions, that maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. But deep down, I knew better. Her actions, her lies, they confirmed it for me. I started paying more attention to her routine. She was still acting weird, more on edge, more defensive. I could smell her perfume on her clothes one night and felt my stomach twist again. The scent was different, unfamiliar, but strong enough to make my skin crawl. She tried to brush it off, saying she went out with her colleagues after work. I wasn't buying it. One afternoon, I decided to follow her. Not in a creepy way, just enough to see where she was going. I parked a few blocks away from her office and watched her walk out at 5 sharp. She wasn't alone. Jason was waiting outside, leaning casually against his car. They talked for a minute, then she got in and they drove off together. The sight of her with him made my jaw tight. I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of anger. That's when I knew this was no coincidence. She was lying to me and I was done being played. I needed evidence, real proof, something undeniable. That's when I remembered her laptop. She kept it hidden in the bedroom, always closed when I came near. I decided I'd have to try and get into it, no matter how much I hated doing that. If she was hiding something, I had to see it myself. That night was the hardest. I waited until she was in the shower and I slipped into the bedroom silently. Her laptop was on the desk, open just a crack. I hesitated for a second, my heart pounding in my chest. I knew I shouldn't invade her privacy like this, but I also knew I couldn't trust her anymore. I slid the computer open, fingers trembling. The screen flickered on and I started digging through her messages and files. It didn't take long before I found a folder labeled Jason. I clicked it open, heart pounding. What I saw made my stomach drop again. Photos. A lot of photos of her and Jason, some from her phone, some from his. They looked recent, taken in her apartment, in his car, even in a hotel lobby. I could see the way she looked at him in those pictures, like she was already gone, like I wasn't even there. My hands were sweating so bad I almost dropped the laptop. All the lies I'd told myself, all the hopes I'd clung to, they shattered in that moment. I closed the folder, feeling sick. I didn't need to see any more. This was enough. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible. The next step was clear. I had to confront her with what I knew, but I wasn't planning to do it right away. I wanted to gather my strength, plan my next move. I needed to turn the tables. I started working on my revenge, not just to hurt her, but to make sure she knew she couldn't get away with it. I couldn't believe I was even considering revenge, but I was damn tired of feeling powerless. I spent a few days plotting. I bought a few things I knew she'd never suspect, some fake documents, a small camera, enough to set up a trap. Somewhere along the line, I realized I wasn't just doing this for revenge. I was doing it to reclaim my dignity, to show her I wasn't some pushover who'd be betrayed and forget about it. I was going to make her see that trust, once broken, can be shattered beyond repair. I knew I had to be patient. That was the hardest part. Sitting back, waiting for the right moment to strike, while she moved around like everything was normal. It's strange how normal can feel so suffocating when you're waiting for the explosion. Every little noise made my stomach churn. When she finally left for work one morning, that's when I knew I had my chance. I set up the trap, just a simple phone app to record her conversations when she thought no one was listening. I was careful, precise. If she was going to lie again, I'd have proof. And if she was planning to keep sneaking around, I'd catch her in the act. That's where I am now. Ready to confront her, ready to show her I've been watching. And honestly, part of me is just waiting for the moment I can finally tell her she's lost everything. It's a terrible feeling, but it's also strangely freeing. When someone you love becomes a stranger overnight, all that's left is to see what they really are. No illusions, no excuses. The day I finally decided to confront her was tense, more than I expected. I sat in my car outside her office, the engine running but my hands numb on the wheel. I'd been waiting for this moment since I first saw her with Jason. The recordings I set up earlier had already given me enough to turn her world upside down, but hearing her lie straight to my face, that was the real gold. She came out of her office around 5:15 p.m. just as I'd predicted. Her face was tilted down, hair falling in her eyes, trying to hide something. I watched her walk toward her car, palms sweating, stomach knotting worse than during the initial discovery. I turned off the engine, got out, and called her on her phone just as she reached her vehicle. "Hey, Emily," I said calmly, trying to sound steady. "Can we talk, just for a minute?" There was a pause before she responded, her voice hesitant. "What do you want?" "I just want to talk about us, about what I found." She hesitated again, then sighed. "Fine, meet me at the park, near the pond." I agreed, though I didn't expect her to be honest. I knew she'd tried to deny everything, to spin some story to save herself. Still, I needed her to face me, to see that I wasn't going to back down anymore. When she arrived at the park, I was already waiting by the benches. The air smelled faintly of rain, and everything looked muted in the dimming light. As she approached, her face was tight, eyes flickering with guilt and something else, fear maybe. I nodded toward the bench. "Sit." She hesitated, but finally lowered herself onto the wood slats. "Look, I cut her off before she could start. "I have the recordings, Emily, the photos, the texts. You lied to me for months. Tell me, what was I supposed to think? Her shoulders sagged. She looked desperate, eyes darting everywhere. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I was weak. Jason, I thought I could control it. I swear I didn't plan any of this. I was just stupid. I felt my jaw tighten, my fists clenched tight enough to feel the nails digging into my palms. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. Stupid doesn't cut it anymore. You betrayed everything we stood for, and you thought you could just hide it, pretend it wasn't happening. She looked down, tears pooling. Please, I never wanted to hurt you. I was stupid, yes, but I love you, I do. That made me laugh bitterly. Love, that's rich coming from someone who's been lying right in my face. I trusted you, we're supposed to get married. How do I even know if what you said tonight is real? Her voice broke. I'm sorry. I was so lost in Jason. He made me feel special, wanted. I swore I'd end it, but I never got around to it. I didn't want to lose everything overnight. I could feel my blood boiling. I didn't want to hear her apologies anymore. I wanted her to realize what she'd done. I wanted her to see that I was done forgiving her on her terms. Have a plan, I said slowly. A way to make you understand what betrayal really costs. You're not walking away from this scot-free, not after what you've done. Her eyes widened. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone, showing her the recordings. I'm going to post these online. You'll be exposed to everyone, your friends, your family, your colleagues, and I'll make sure Jason knows exactly what kind of person you really are. She gasped, scrambling to grab my arm. You can't do that. Please don't. I'll do anything. No, I interrupted coldly. You lied to me from the start. I trusted you and you threw it all away. This is what you get for cheating, for lying, for thinking you could hide behind a fake smile. Her face crumpled completely. Please don't ruin my life. I'll leave Jason, stop everything, just don't do that. I shook my head, feeling the weight of everything crashing down around me. It's too late for apologies. You made your choice, and now I'm making mine. I want you to leave. Pack your things and get out of my life. She looked utterly defeated, trembling as she stood up. Where am I supposed to go? Anywhere but here, I said sharply. You lied, you betrayed me, and I want nothing to do with you anymore. I paused, then added, and I'll be watching to make sure you don't come back. As she hesitated, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anger. I handed her a set of keys, her car keys, which I'd secretly taken earlier. Here, your way out. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, then took the keys with trembling fingers. This isn't over, she whispered. I watched her walk away, feeling a strange emptiness inside, colder than I'd ever felt before. I'd lost my trust and maybe even a part of myself. But one thing was clear, I was done. Done being betrayed, done being the fool. I was taking back control, even if it meant burning everything to the ground first. And honestly, I didn't care if she hated me, because I knew I'd never trust her again. Not after this. The next morning, sunlight barely filtered through the curtains when I finally felt some of the fog lift. The weight of what I'd done, what I'd planned, pressed heavy on my chest, but at least I finally had clarity. I watched her drive off, her face streaked with tears, her figure shrinking into the distance. The sound of her car fading away was almost like a release. For the first time in days, I felt a tiny flicker of control. I spent the morning cleaning out her things from the apartment. It was bizarre how every item suddenly seemed so insignificant, yet each one carried a memory. Her favorite mug, the picture frames we bought together, those little notes she'd left for me. I handled everything with a coldness I never knew I possessed. It was as if I was removing the remnants of a life I once believed in, a life that now felt like a lie. The act of packing her stuff was strangely cathartic. I even threw out her favorite perfume, the scent that had haunted me since I saw her with Jason, releasing it into the trash with a flick of my wrist. I closed the box of her belongings, feeling a strange sense of finality. This was over, or at least that's what I told myself. Later that day, I sat in my apartment, staring at the empty space where she once sat. I replayed everything, trying to piece it together. How did I miss all those signs? Was I blind, stupid, or just too trusting? I ran my hand through my hair. I couldn't shake the feeling that I'd been played, not just by her, but by myself for believing it wouldn't end like this. As the hours dragged on, I decided I had to do one more thing. I had to make sure everyone knew the truth, not just for my sake but for everyone who might have believed her lies. I knew I had enough evidence, recordings, photos, the texts, to do some real damage. But I also knew if I wanted to make this stick, I'd have to be smart about it. I crafted a post, one that laid out everything clearly. No emotional outbursts, just the facts, the evidence. I included screenshots of her texts, the photos, and a brief explanation of how I found out and what I planned to do. I was careful not to reveal her identity fully, avoiding explicit details that could hurt innocent people. My goal was simple: make her see she'd been caught red-handed and she couldn't spin her way out of this one. When I hit send on the post, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. It was a gamble, exposing her like that, but I didn't see any other way. I knew it would spread quickly. Her friends, her colleagues, her family, everyone would see it. Hell, I even uploaded it to a few anonymous forums. I wanted her to feel the sting of betrayal without any chance to deny it. It wasn't long before the fallout started. Her phone rang nonstop. I heard from mutual friends she'd told some story about how I was crazy and trying to ruin her. But the truth was out there, and I knew she couldn't spin her way past that. The comments flooded in. Some sympathized with her, but most condemned her. People I didn't even know reached out, saying they'd seen the evidence and it changed everything for them. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, feeling the silence surround me. The adrenaline from the chaos had worn off, leaving a strange emptiness in its place. I finally allowed myself to think about what I'd lost: trust, stability, the future I'd planned. But amid that dark cloud, a tiny spark of something else emerged: relief. A weight off my shoulders, knowing I'd finally taken control. Then came the call from her. I saw her number pop up on my screen and I hesitated before answering. Her voice was trembling, almost broken. "You've ruined everything," she whispered. "I never wanted it to end like this." I took a deep breath. "You lied to me for months. I gave you every chance, Emily. I trusted you, and you threw that all away with Jason. You chose to betray me." She started crying harder, begging, "Please, I'll fix this. I swear, just give me a chance. I love you." I said nothing for a moment, feeling the cold strength I'd built up. "You had your chance, but now it's over. I want you out of my life for good. Don't call me again." I ended the call, feeling the last of my anger settle into something colder, something that told me I'd done what I had to. My trust was shattered and I wasn't sure I could ever really rebuild it. But I knew one thing: I was done waiting for her to decide my worth. From now on, I was in control. That night, I finally made the hardest decision of all. I went to the bank, withdrew some money, and started the process of ending everything legally. I called a lawyer, set the wheels in motion to file for divorce. I didn't want to drag this out. I wanted a clean break, a fresh start. The papers were drafted and I signed everything that evening. I handed over the keys to the apartment, leaving her everything I'd bought for us: her furniture, her clothes. I wanted her to have nothing left to cling to. As I sealed the deal, I realized I finally felt a strange sense of liberation. I'd been betrayed, humiliated, angry, hell, almost broken. But I'd also taken back my power. I'd fought for myself. And in the end, that's what mattered most: reclaiming my sovereignty and not letting her destroy me. The takeaway: sometimes trust dies and all you're left with is what you choose to do afterward. For me, that was cutting ties, exposing lies, and finally walking away with my head held high. After I signed the divorce papers and handed over the keys, I felt like I was finally exhaling for the first time in weeks. The weight of everything, the betrayal, the lies, the chaos, started to lift. Maybe it was the adrenaline fading or just the exhaustion catching up, but I knew that I'd done what I needed to do. Still, the aftermath left me with a strange numbness, like I'd been numbed by the storm I just weathered. For days, I kept to myself, avoiding calls, avoiding her friends who tried to reach out, trying to process what had happened. My mind kept circling back to the moments of betrayal, her lies, the countless hours I'd spent trusting her. It was like trying to piece together a puzzle that was missing half the pieces. I kept asking myself, could I have seen it coming? Could I have done something differently? But I knew the answers didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I was finally free from the chaos she brought into my life. One evening, I was sitting in a quiet bar nursing a drink when a familiar voice interrupted my thoughts. It was Jason. I saw him across the room, his face tense, eyes searching. I didn't bother hiding my disdain. I gestured him over and he hesitated before walking up to me. He started with an awkward apology, avoiding eye contact. "Look, man, I didn't mean for things to get so messy. I didn't want to hurt you. Honestly, I didn't think she'd go this far." I looked at him, feeling the cold fire in my chest again. "You mean to tell me you didn't know she was already involved with someone else? That she wasn't just helping you with work?" He looked down at his glass. "I knew she was with someone, yeah, but I thought, hell, I don't know, I thought maybe she was just playing the field or something." His voice was shaky, like he was unsure whether to be defensive or regretful. I leaned in, voice low and harsh. "You're both liars. She lied to me, you lied to me. And I'm done with both of you. Don't ever come near me again, because if I see either of you again, I won't be so polite." He nodded, eyes filled with guilt. "Yeah, I get it. I messed up." I turned away, feeling the familiar surge of anger spike through my veins again. But that anger wasn't destructive anymore. It was a reminder that I'd finally taken control. I'd stood my ground. I'd shown them I wasn't going to be a victim of their lies. Over the next few weeks, I focused on rebuilding my life. I moved into a new apartment, something small just for me, and started working out more. The gym became my sanctuary. Lifting weights, sweat dripping down my face, I felt the muscles in my arms tighten, the physical exertion helping to drown out the mental chaos. I couldn't change what happened, but I could control how I moved forward. I also sought out a therapist. Talking through everything helped more than I expected. She told me that betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches resilience. That I'd been through something intense and it'd take time to heal. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. One day I found myself in a coffee shop, reading a book, when an old friend from college sat down across from me. We hadn't seen each other in years, but he looked at me with concern. "You look like you've been through a war," he said softly. I chuckled bitterly. "Yeah, I guess I have, but I also won, finally." He nodded. "Good, you deserve better. Anyone who cheats and lies like that doesn't worth your energy." That's when I realized I was moving on, not just because I wanted to forget her, but because I needed to reclaim my life. I had to stop letting her define me. The truth is, I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again. Trust is fragile, like glass. Once shattered, it's impossible to put back perfectly. But I'm learning that trust can also be rebuilt in time with the right person. I'm not rushing into anything. For now, I'm just trying to focus on myself, my recovery, my growth, my future. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that betrayal hurts like hell, but it also teaches you who you really are. And sometimes that's stronger than ever, even when everything else feels broken. So my advice: don't ignore the red flags and don't let anyone make you feel less than you are. Trust your gut, face the truth, and don't be afraid to walk away. Because in the end, the only person you need to rely on is yourself. And if you take care of yourself, trust me, you'll come out of it stronger, even if it hurts for a while. Looking back, I realized that the whole mess changed me more than I thought it would. I used to believe in her, in us, and I held onto that hope until it was ripped away so brutally. When I finally threw her out, handed over the keys, and watched her drive off, I felt like a shell of myself, wounded but somehow relieved. It was a brutal lesson in trust, betrayal, and the importance of listening to that little voice inside that screams when something's off. Now I'm not perfect. Some nights the anger sneaks back in, and I lie awake wondering if I missed signs, if I could have done something differently. But those thoughts are quieter than they used to be. They're overshadowed by a sense of clarity, knowing I did what I had to do to protect myself. I took control of my own story, rather than letting her lie and manipulate her way into my head and heart. I've come to see that betrayal isn't just about cheating. It's about the deeper cracks it exposes in a relationship: trust, honesty, respect. Once those are shattered, it's almost impossible to glue everything back together. But what you can do is pick up the pieces and build something new, something stronger, if you're willing to face the pain and accept the reality. So here's what I want to tell anyone reading this who might be going through the same thing: trust your instincts. Don't ignore those little red flags that pop up, even if they seem minor at first. Because usually they're not. And if someone is lying to you, hiding things, or making you doubt yourself, that's a sign that something's seriously wrong. Don't be afraid to confront. to ask questions or to walk away. It's going to hurt badly. But in the end, it's better to walk away with your dignity intact than stay and drown in betrayal. You'll come out on the other side, battered but stronger, knowing you stood up for yourself. And don't forget, rebuilding your life after betrayal is a marathon, not a sprint. Take your time. Focus on yourself. Find what makes you happy again. Whether it's rebuilding trust with someone new or just learning to love yourself, it's okay to feel lost for a while. That's part of the process. I can finally say I've started healing. I've learned to be cautious but not bitter, to trust again but more wisely. I still feel the sting of everything she did, but it no longer controls me. I'm finally moving forward, one step at a time. If there's one thing I want everyone to take from this, it's this: never let betrayal define you. You are more resilient than you think. Trust may break, but it can be rebuilt, just not with the same person who shattered it. And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, hand over the keys, and start over, because nobody deserves to be a prisoner of someone else's lies. Not me, not you. We all deserve a chance to find happiness, truth, and real trust again, and better than before.